today with Peter Harold, Chairman of Horizon Gold. Peter, thanks for your time.
David, thanks for having me.
Horizon Gold recently completed an IPO and is now listed on the ASX. What are the assets within Horizon and its reason for listing?
The primary asset is the Gum Creek Gold Project, which is about 120 k's west of Wiluna. It's an asset that Panoramic previously owned, and that's the asset that we spun out. Horizon owns 100% of that asset, and we raised $15 million in the IPO, which is primarily going to be used for finding new ore bodies, and we've got a number of targets that we've generated which were detailed in the prospectus. We've also got 1.25 million ounces of gold in existing resources, and we'll look to beef those resources up, look for extensions to those, and infill drill some of those resources. And then the third part of the strategy for Horizon will be to actually do some optimisation studies around two feasibility studies that were done by Panoramic, one on the free milling ore and one on the refractory material, as to whether we can convert both of those previous studies into studies which could be converted into projects down the track.
Tim Mason, Project Manager. What's the opportunity at Gum Creek?
Well, we think the opportunity at Gum Creek is quite significant. It's a large tenement package with a rich production history. It's produced over 1 million ounces of gold to date. But what people need to remember is it's been owned quite often by companies who this hasn't been their primary focus, and now we have a company which is focused on Gum Creek. It's got existing resources which warrant being able to do studies on, and the work which we did last year has defined 28 new geophysical targets which we think has certainly got potential to find some additional resources, and if that combined with the studies, the potential is huge.
And the infrastructure that sits within the tenement package?
Well, that's one of the best things about it, is it's got an airstrip, it's got a camp, it's got tailing facilities which we would need to put a raising on. It's got an existing processing facility which again we'd need to do some more work with, but there's a lot of value in that, and it's also on granted mineral tenure, which is very important to be able to expedite your permits and getting the project up and running quickly.
Must be pleased with the current gold price and the forward-looking projections?
Yeah, absolutely. The current gold price over $1,600 an ounce is very strong. This project ceased production in March 2005, and the gold price then was $450, $500 Australian, so it's a long way above where it ceased production back then.
One of the previous owners, Panoramic, conducted a significant amount of study work at the project. How useful is that information, and how do you now advance that in its own right? Absolutely.
Well, there's about 5 years of data which we've got access to, and we're going to take that data, especially now that we're fully funded, we're in a great position to be able to use that to go forward. About half the resources are free milling, oxide resources, and the other half is refractory. So we're looking at other processing methods to be able to process that refractory ore. And look, we're very optimistic that we think there's alternative ways which we could process that ore to enhance the value of the project.
John Hicks, General Manager of Exploration. What's the work program the company's looking to undertake over the next 12 months?
Now that we're fully funded, we have a number of targets, 28 to be precise, geophysically generated targets. And over the next 12 months, we certainly hope to test most of them. Not all of them will be successful, of course, but we are quietly optimistic that some of them are going to bear fruit.
You're in a unique position that, although you're a new IPO, you already have a significant amount of technical data to draw from. Absolutely. The Gum Creek project's been around for some time, and there's been a number of parties in there. There's a wealth of historical information which we have access to, and we're trying to build on that information by following up on targets previously identified, but also generating new targets through new geophysical techniques.